War begins with footsteps. Not the kind announced by drums or banners. Not the kind remembered with pride. War begins when feet cross a line that should never be crossed, when soil meant for harvest is pressed by men who bring hunger instead of seed. It begins when the ground feels weight and knows it will soon drink blood. This is Kandara. A land shaped by sun and memory, where people once believed that trade meant exchange and that a person could never belong to another. A land that learned, too late, that beliefs unguarded invite violence. The Sahari dominion arrived at dawn, when the sky still hesitated between night and day. They came without warning and without patience. Fire took the roofs first. Spears followed. Smoke rose so thick it swallowed prayer. People ran. Some toward the forest. Some toward loved ones. Some toward nothing at all. And in the middle of it all, a child ran. Her feet struck the earth hard and fast, bare skin meeting stone and ash. She did not understand borders or power or ambition. She only understood movement. Stop and die. Move and live. Her name was Serena. She did not cry as she ran. Crying wasted breath. Instead, she listened. She heard her father fall, the sound heavy and final. She heard her mother's voice rise in resistance, then disappear beneath force. She heard chains dragged across the ground and felt something colder than fear settle inside her. That sound would never leave her. Behind her, Kandara burned. Ahead of her, the world narrowed to one command: survive. The Sahari called it conquest. They spoke of order and stability, of progress carried on iron. But order arrived in rings locked around wrists, and stability was enforced with whips. Villages emptied. Roads failed. The slave paths were not built in a day, they were worn into existence by repetition, step after step, body after body, until suffering became routine. Zorina saw men collapse and be left behind. She saw elders discarded when their pace slowed. She saw children bound together so none could escape alone. She did not yet have language for injustice. But she knew this was wrong with a certainty deeper than thought. She ran until her legs shook, until fire softened into smoke, until sound gave way to silence. When she could no longer run, she walked. When walking failed, she crawled. Hunger clawed at her belly. Cold pressed against her bones. Many children would have stopped. Zarina did not. She moved because stopping felt like surrender, and surrender felt like betrayal. The land tested her before it accepted her. Thorns cut her skin. Night stretched long and merciless. Her body thinned. Her eyes hardened. When Nayoka found her, the child looked less like a survivor and more like a question left unanswered by the world. Nayoka had lived through wars before. She had buried fighters whose names history would never record. She recognized what burned behind Zarina's silence. Not fear. Focus. Nayoka took the child without ceremony. She did not promise peace. She promised truth. Years passed not by seasons, but by endurance. Zarina learned to wake before the sun and move without greeting it. She learned how to read the ground, how to hear danger before it spoke. She learned that silence could be louder than screams. Pain became familiar. Scars became permanent. Nayoka taught her that strength lived in balance, not rage. That anger without control devoured its owner. That a warrior's greatest weapon was not the blade, but the mind that decided when to use it. The child faded quietly. No ritual marked her passing. One day, Nayoka realized she was no longer teaching a girl. She was refining a force. Zarina's first kill was inevitable. The slaver never saw her until the moment ended. He trusted chains. He trusted numbers. He believed ownership was power. Zarina corrected him. She stood over his body afterward, breathing hard, not from fear, but from understanding. Something had been crossed. Something irreversible. She did not step back. She stepped forward. Stories began to move ahead of her, faster than her feet could carry her. Whispers traveled the slave roads. chains opened at night. Guards survived but refused to speak. They called her the Ash Daughter because she came from fire and left nothing but endings behind. She did not seek followers. Those who had lost everything recognized her pace. Runaways walked with her. Widows found purpose beside her. Men who had once bowed learned to stand without apology. She did not promise victory. She promised movement. Together, they turned routes of suffering into paths of resistance. They struck and vanished. They freed and burned records. They made the trade of human bodies expensive, dangerous, unstable. The Sahari responded with excess. More soldiers. More punishment. More fire. Villages were erased. Bodies were displayed as warnings. Fear was sharpened into a weapon and swung blindly. Zarina did not stop. Leadership weighed on her. Every loss carved deeper lines into her face. She learned that war did not reward righteousness, only preparation. Nayoka fell defending children whose steps were still small. A moment stretched too long. A spear found its mark. Zarina held her as life faded. Do not let hate finish this, Nayoka said. Let truth do it. Those words anchored her. The final confrontation came not by choice, but by inevitability. The slave roads converged at Koru Plains, and so did history. Thousands arrived carrying anger, grief, and resolve. The earth trembled beneath them. Zarina did not speak. She walked. Through dust. Through steel. Through falling bodies and broken certainty. She reached the Sahari High Chief where blood slicked the ground. He spoke of power. Of the way the world worked. Of what she could have been. Zarina answered with action. When it ended, the slave trade between Kandora and Sahari ended with it. Not gradually. Not politely. It ended because it could no longer stand. Empires rarely collapse with noise. They rot quietly. Without the trade, the Sahari dominion weakened. Chiefs argued. Generals blamed. Wealth thinned. Power fractured. Treaties were signed from exhaustion, not mercy. In Kandara, freedom required discipline. People had to relearn how to choose. How to walk without permission. How to sleep without listening for chains. Zarina stayed long enough to dismantle what needed dismantling and then refused permanence. She understood that if she stayed, they would build statues, and statues invite stillness. And stillness invites change. So she walked away. Not into legend. Into silence. Years passed. Children were born who knew her only as a story. Elders spoke her name carefully, refusing to turn her into myth too quickly. The old slave roads grew over. Markets collapsed into dust. Trees broke stone foundations where suffering had once been traded. And sometimes, when the wind moved just right, travelers said they heard footsteps where no one walked. Not running. Not chasing. Moving forward. Because long after weapons rust and empires disappear, the land remembers this truth. Chains are broken first by those who refuse to stop walking. And somewhere beyond maps and memory, Zarina still walks, not as ruler, not as legend, but as proof that even the fiercest systems fall when confronted by a single will forged in fire and guided by truth. The land remembers her. By freedom.